to settle in Israel, because what is important for Israel is not self-determination for the Jewish people. What is important for Israel is to make sure that it's not an Arab state. And if you are a Baha'i and you live on a mountain in the Himalaya, but you are definitely not an Arab, you will become an Israeli Jewish citizen in no time, if you are willing to come over. There's no problem. The rabbis would make sure that you are a Jew, and they may cause you to go through some painful operations, but if you are a man, but all in all, you are welcome because you are not an Arab. And if you're an Arab Jew, you will have to de-Arabize yourself, otherwise you will not be welcome in the Israeli Jewish society. Now the third and last concept, and then I've reached to my 30 minutes, is the ethnic purity. The ethnic purity of the state. And this is related to the right of return. Most of the people, especially some of our best friends, and I mean it not ironically, as I just published a book with Noam Chomsky, I include him in this. Some of our best friends are against the right of return. And their practical explanation. They would say it's unrealistic to tell the refugees that they should look forward for the possibility of returning. That they should be encouraged to think about a different kind of future. And I would say that the departure point for this analysis is not practicality, is not realpolitik, because if the basis for analyzing, as Uri Avneri does, and Noam Chomsky does, and all our, and I'm, as I say, I'm not cynically saying our good friends. They are my good friends, but I totally disagree with them. If the basis for analyzing the situation is realpolitik, then it means that the balance of power determines your attitude. Well, the balance of power, as we heard yesterday, between the largest and strongest army in the Middle East and the weakest military power in the world, right? If this balance of power determines our attitudes, we shouldn't even meet here today. We should give in to the Israeli dictates. And we know the Israelis are very clear what they want. They want to have as much of Palestine as possible with as few Palestinians as possible. They wanted it in 1882 and they want it in 2010. This hasn't changed. The means have changed, the historical circumstances have changed, but the vision of what would be a thriving, successful Israeli society is a society which has as few Arabs as possible and as much of Palestine as possible. That hasn't changed. So if realpolitik determines our attitudes, we should give in to this vision. So in any case, we are not dealing with realpolitik when we are challenging what Israel wants. And the reason the Israelis refuse even to acknowledge the right of return, let alone practically implement the right of return, is not because, as some people would think, because they have a very serious conscientious problem of admitting that they have kicked out and massacred people 3 years after the Holocaust. I once thought that this was the main problem. I admit, I once wrote about it. I was hopeful, because I'm optimistic. I'm not very tall. I always see the bottom half of the glass. So I thought the Israelis don't want to talk about the right of return because people who were, like Uri Avneri, for instance, were involved in the ethnic cleansing itself, feel unhappy about it. And if you talk about the right of return, this is the kind of panacea, the remedy for the illness. No, I don't think this has had anything to do with it, unfortunately. It makes a lot of sense from a Zionist point of view to say Arabs are not welcome. Whether these are Arabs we kicked out, whether these are Arabs who we never touched, whether these are Arab Jews who want to insist to remain Arabs, even if they are Jews, they are not welcome. Because we won't be a democracy if these people would come in. That's the major thing. That's the main Israeli refusal for the right of return. So when you support, and with this I will end, When you support the Palestinian right of return, you are not only supporting, which I understand we all do, the right of people who were kicked out to come back if they want to. You are not only acknowledging the crime of the ethnic cleansing in 1948. You are not only abiding by United Nations resolution that very clearly support the right of people to return. You are saying a very simple no to racism. That's what you are doing. You just say no to the only racist state we have in the Middle East. We have not very nice regimes in the Middle East, I agree. The political regimes in the Middle East are nothing to write home about. I would not publicize them as sort of recommendation for future societies to build their politics on this basis. But not one of them is racist. The only racist state is the Jewish state of Israel. And one of the only ways of engaging with this racism is to challenge it on the right of the refugees to return. Not because it's practical or not practical, because it deals with the genetic code of the Jewish state. The idea that you can colonize is not new. But the idea in the 21st century that you can maintain this colonization by openly pursuing a racist, maintaining a racist state should not be acceptable, especially not in this country. Thank you.